Hey, and welcome to Flip Flops, brought to you by Treefish EDU. In this YouTube series, you'll expect some laughs, some flops, and some tips, tricks, and best practices of flip learning.
So I'm Nick Johnson. I'm a high school chemistry teacher and instructional technology coach. I'm also co-host of Got Tech, the podcast, with that guy you see there next to me right now. Most of all, I'm just an Edtech enthusiast and excited to be bringing you guys episode 2 of Flip Flops.
And I'm Eric Geis. I'm an EdTech coach, podcaster with Nick, and I recently completed my doctorate in digital transformation and education. I'm going to take some time tonight to introduce Kyle, since he's unable to be here. Kyle Nemes is an EdTech coach from New Jersey, named to the top 100 global leaders of flip learning, co-founder of Classroom Q, and a father for the third time. He will be back with us next week, probably sleep deprived, but congrats, Kyle, and your wife on your beautiful addition to your family. Each week, two of us will be on camera. As you can see, Nick and I drew the short straw, so we are on camera this week, and I will also be managing the back end. At the end of the show, we'll address any questions that are asked in the live chat.
So a little bit more background on the show, where it comes from and why we're doing what we're doing. It's called Flip Flops, and it's called that because it has a focus on flipped learning or flipped classrooms. And in case there's any newbies out there, I always like to start off with just a quick kind of background on what that is. So really, flipped learning is just another educational framework, and what it essentially does is sort of flipping that traditional lecture style teaching around on its head. And a lot of times you may have heard about it as sort of this oversimplified description where the kids do their homework in school and their schoolwork at home. And that is sort of one way you can set up flipped learning, but it's a little bit too narrow, and I think there's a lot more to it than that. A better way for me to describe it is that it's essentially, it just means that your students are gathering content digitally, and typically that's with videos, which you'll see in today's episode. And they do that without having to be in class. So they can watch them in class, or you can have them watch their videos at home for homework. The point is they're gathering that content without having to hear it from you, sort of on their own time and at their own pace. The benefit to me, and I think Geis agrees, is that your class time, which used to be taken up with delivering that content, is now free to do what I like to call the fun stuff. You get to do projects. You get to do labs. You get to just do hands-on things, discussions, have kids talking, working in groups, the stuff that really makes school fun and engaging. Mostly, and they can just get help from you as they sort of practice and engage with that content. So that's flipped learning, and that's sort of where Flipped Flops comes in. This is the show where we teach you how to do this, how to run a flipped classroom. But instead of just teaching how to do it, we're going to do that hopefully by explaining all the ways that we did it wrong. So every Wednesday at 8:30 p.m., one of us is going to take the hot seat. Tonight, that somebody is me, as we share a time where our own flipped classroom flopped. The point is so that you guys can learn from our mistakes so that you don't have to make them.
All right, so I'm going to kind of break down this week's flip flop into a little narrative. And when I first saw the flop, I've spent all summer trying to make the perfect video. I thought of myself as a younger teacher because I can remember sitting in these professional developments at school with these new initiatives for the first time. And we know something here. We know that teachers, we don't have enough time, ever. We don't have enough time. That is always our limiting factor. We need time to prepare. We need time to act. We need time to implement. And we need time to commit to a goal. So this week's flop is one that I've seen. Nick and I shared an office, a desk even, at one point. And I've seen Nick flop on this one, this particular flop, so many times. And really, I just need to sit back and eat a bag of popcorn. It's amusing to me because, you know, you got to understand Nick. He is a neat freak. He's super organized, maybe a little OCD, and very, very, very much like a perfectionist. So I'm going to ask Nick to go into a little bit more detail, maybe an educational confession, if you will. I will be here to listen.
Yeah, man. I mean, you nailed it, actually. It's totally my personality. Obsessed with making everything look perfect, especially something visual like creating a video. So way back, I don't know if you remember the PD that we went to probably 7 years ago to learn about flipped learning. It was my first time. You told me about it. I was like, yeah, sure. take the day off and go check it out. And for me, it was just like this, a game changer in my brain. Like, this is how we have to be teaching. It's so great. So I got to work creating, digital content videos for my students like that summer, planning to fully go there next year. But because of that, I just wanted to be so perfect. I just kept thinking, now all this content that's got my name on it, I call it Chemistry by Johnson. You can find some of them on YouTube. It's out there permanently, forever. And it's not just my students, it's everybody. It's other teachers, college students, maybe checking this stuff out for some extra help. I wanted it to be perfect. And this is, something I still struggle with. I think that first summer, I spent like 4 weeks on just getting one single 5-minute video and get the PowerPoint all set up to record on top of. These are all screencasts. So you make the PowerPoint, narrating it perfectly, editing it. I had music to them. It can snowball really fast because I wanted it to be perfect that way. So,
well, I'm going to have to hop in here. I got to break this down even further because
right.
I know it lasted more than the summer, this whole perfectionism thing with you. But one thing, the most important group that you are trying to address, they are your students. And that's the number one thing that you got to take away from here. So when was the last time that you went into a classroom and you didn't stumble one time through a lesson?
Sure.
You are not perfect. No one's perfect. All right. And you go in there, you stumble, and knowing you use some type of comedy to brush it off, and you found a point to restart. Well, the video should be the same. In my opinion, they should be the same. It should be kind of your character through that video. And if you're not showing that you're perfect in class, you need to also, I think they'll appreciate it more when you aren't perfect on your video. It's more of a true experience. It's more of a raw classroom experience. So I often think about this like how I think about podcasting versus books on tape. All right, your podcasts are your informal versions of a book on tape. It's raw footage. It's everything that we want it to be, engaging and raw. So by making them perfect, that's kind of like a book on tape or just a recorded lecture without any of your, miscues or your humor. So I would say, why not stick with those little tiny mistakes? If it's a huge organizational thing, yeah, scrap it. But if it's something small, just keep going with it.
Yeah, man, I like the podcast comparison is smart. I never thought about it that way. And you said something else too. I am still, this flap is sort of ongoing for me too, because I definitely have cut it down and I'm willing to deal with more of those imperfections, but it's just a hard thing for, I think, certain people to remember. But it is true. You got to let that stuff go. In class, most seasoned teachers know that when you mess up, make a mistake, misspeak, those are the best moments because everybody gets to laugh. You let the kids know that you're a real person, and your videos can do the same thing. In our last episode, we talked about making sure it's your voice, and our other partner, Kyle, said it's got to be your face on that video too. So they can see you make that mistake and they can see you laughing about it. It goes a long way. So the podcast analogy is a smart one. So, it can be time consuming though. And that's something I think I wanted to wrap all this up with is you're still creating your own videos to teach your kids. And no matter how okay with mistakes you are, it is going to take some time, and it's something you have to deal with this flipped classroom concept if you're going to take it on. So just a couple of things that I've learned, and you can hop in if I'm missing anything here. It's a slow building process. I think I usually take on converting just one of my chemistry units per year. So I'll make, I don't know, maybe 10 to 12 videos to cover that unit over the summertime. And then it's just done. That's what I do for that year. And then that one unit is done. And we all know how fast time goes, right? So in just a few years, you'll have maybe 3-4 units, could be half of your whole course, fully converted to this video format. So it's a slow build. It's lots of energy up front, but the payoff is huge in the end, because then you've got this catalog of videos. And if you like them and you're proud of them, they're there for you for years upon years, hopefully till the end of your career. I think I just hit like the 200 video mark, something I never thought would be possible starting that first 4-week summer span, right, to get that one done. So that's helpful just to realize how fast it all goes. Keeping things short and sweet, right? You don't have to get on there and read the whole textbook, just main points. That's the beauty of it. You hit those main points. Even if the kids are confused watching the video, who cares? That's the good stuff, because then they bring that confusion to class. They have something to ask you, something to talk about. It's perfect. So keep them simple. And the software is just super easy to use too. So what do you think you think I hit all the things there? What did we miss?
Well, I think you hit everything pretty well there, but I want to emphasize, you said something about making an investment. It's time up front, but that's something that you get to keep for the rest of your career. You know, it's digital. It's going to be there. And really, I like to consider that a smart investing, because you're going to get dividends on that every year after that. So that's one thing. But I have one, I guess it's a flop of mine on the same path, I guess.
Oh, cool.
Because I started, a year ahead of you on making these videos. You kind of laughed at me, I'm pretty sure, because I looked kind of ridiculous at first. I would get all nervous and sweaty hands and fidget and all that good stuff. But I will tell you this, my biggest mistake was I made my flipped videos based on chapters in a book. I did that. I flipped my whole year. And then the next year we got a new book, and none of those chapters were relevant. So what I ended up doing is going back and cutting, this is chapter blah, 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 topic, whatever. And I ended up, and that took even more time. I could have probably made new videos. But what I'm saying is, don't say chapters, don't say units, topics only, because those topics, they don't go away. Curriculums change. They get moved around and shuffled around, but those topics are pretty much the same in one way, shape, or form. So that's going to wrap it up for episode 2 of Flip Flops, where Nick decided to dedicate his whole summer creating just 3 videos. Great job there. I'm going to let you continue on with introducing next week's show.
Yeah, sure. So, if you like what you hear, join us next Wednesday at the same time. This is an ongoing series. Next Wednesday, Geis and I and Kyle are going to talk about how it's actually his first flop. Geis, at the beginning of his flipping, assigned a 30-minute YouTube video for homework, 30 minutes that his kids are supposed to go home and watch, if you can believe it. One of his many mistakes, and hopefully we'll get to hear some tips about that. I do want to bring up, while we were sort of going into this stuff today, I got a Twitter message from a listener asking about some of the Edtech tools that we use to make our videos on a low to no budget. We could do a whole episode just on this, so I'll just throw some things out there to you guys that we like. Most people know about the Screencastify. That's great if you're working in Chrome. I'm a fan, and I think Geis might still use Screencast-O-Matic. It's another free. These are screencast recorders. So whatever's on your screen, if it's a PowerPoint or a website or a Google Slides, it records that with your voice narrating it. And then you can do a lot of this stuff too with WeVideo. It's an editing software that's popular for schools, and you can screencast with that too. And if you want to go real simple, how about just, hop on Zoom, hop on Google Meet. We're all pretty comfortable with that now in 2020 with the pandemic taking place. You can just talk and throw up a background and record yourself there too. So there's lots of cheap, easy ways to do this.
So I'm going to come back in and I'm going to award my phantom points of the episode. So, Nick, you're going to get 5 points for your dedication to perfection.
Nice.
I'm going to get 5 points for guessing that Kyle's baby was going to be a girl. Go me. I have a knack for these types of things.
Yep.
And I'm going to give Kyle 4 points for his participation tonight. All seriousness, we miss Kyle. We'll see him again next week. So since, I make up all the points and everything, I'm going to allow you to kind of sum up this episode to carry us out tonight.
Cool. So here's a quick recap of what you heard us talk about. Remember, don't worry about creating that perfect video every time. Just like in your classroom, those imperfections have value and they're okay, and you should embrace them. Secondly, creating videos does take a lot of time up front, but if you are making screencasts with slideshows that you've already got, you'll slowly build an impressive catalog over time. So keep that in mind.
All right. So until next time, go out and try and make a couple of videos and implement them into your new school year. We'll see you later.